It's week one already. Seems like just yesterday we were doing this for signing day, and now all of a sudden it's here. So very excited to get on the road versus an FBS opponent in Illinois. It'll be one of the most unique games I've ever played, because right now I don't really know who we're playing. Just to be quite honest with you, especially on defense, I have no idea. We've been watching Tampa Bay Bucks film, and we've been doing it on YouTube. We just type in like Tampa Bay versus Atlanta Falcons on YouTube, and watching it that way. So it's kind of been old school. Defensively versus their offense, we got a little bit better idea just because of Coach McGee over there, and we faced him a number of times. Obviously, you got to be ready for different wrinkles and things of that nature, but it ought to be quite an experience. You know, one thing about us is we'll be traveling a lot of new guys. There'll be a lot of guys out there on the field that you've never seen before. You've never seen their names, never seen their faces, and I've never seen them either in battle. So that'll be a lot of fun, getting to see how some of these young kids handle a venue like that and an experience like that. But really happy to start the season off with a game like that, because I think it's going to give us a good judge of where we're at as a football team.
How have you prepared these guys to go into that environment? Like, so many new guys that are going to be seeing playing time. Talking to two guys before you, they were talking about a faceless opponent. Is that kind of the approach that you've tried to instill in them?
Yeah, we have a little deal around here. We call it a 24-1 mentality. All we worry about on a Monday is what we have to get done and get accomplished on a Monday, and then Tuesday we worry about what we've got to get accomplished on a Tuesday. I took down the countdown clock in our locker room because I started noticing too many kids looking up there and wishing days away. And I started noticing myself look up there and wishing days away and hoping that the first kickoff would get here faster and faster. So I took that down, and right now we're just worried about, especially in a game like this when you really don't know what you're going to face. The best thing that I know to do is to keep everything very simple and worry about the racers and leave it to very open-ended, I guess is the way I put it, is leave it very open-ended so that no matter what situation we get in on Saturday, we can adjust that more easily on offense and defense, and that's kind of the approach we've taken. But it's like I tell, as far as preparing the guys, it's like I tell all the high school kids, the field's going to be the same. It's going to be the exact same length and the exact same width. The field goal posts are a little different, but the rules are all the same. And we brought them here because we knew that they were talented enough to play the game of football, and that doesn't change. It doesn't matter if you're playing Illinois or Southern Illinois or EKU. It does not matter. Football is football, and that's the way we're going to approach it.
With your camps out of the way, are you surprised, disappointed? Maybe what's your take on your very first depth chart of the 2016 season?
Neither surprised nor disappointed nor encouraged. It is what it is. It's not like that's the first time we've seen it as a coaching staff. It's we've been doing that depth chart since February, since we signed most all those guys, and then when we'd add a new guy, we'd go, okay, how does this fit into the mix of what we got, and we'd move kids around and we'd call them. Our high school kids, we'd call them when they were at home. Hey, look here, when you get here in the summer, be ready to, now we're going to flip-flop you and we're going to move you to X, or we're going to flip-flop you and move you to safety, or whatever the case may be. You're just trying to put, I think personally that's the biggest thing that you have to do as a coach. It's not the schemes. And I used to think it was the schemes when I was just the coordinator. I used to think that I was, maybe some type of guru or something up there and running different plays than everybody else had, and I've quickly come to realize that everybody runs the same plays for the most part, but it's about where you have people in the best fit and the best 11, trying to put the best 11 out there on the field at one time, and that's where we put most of our efforts on a day-to-day basis, is making sure that who's injured, who's not injured, who needs to move up, who needs to move down, who needs to move over. Coach Brotman made a good point one time. We had a receiver that was running on the left side of the formation, what we call our X, and he wasn't doing very well, and we kind of brought him in one time and we said, hey, and we showed him his high school film, and we said, hey man, we want to see you do this stuff. And he goes, well, Coach, I was on the other side of the ball when I did that stuff. And it kind of hit me. So we moved him over to Z, and he's been a totally different player ever since. And just some things like that on a day-to-day basis that you have to look for and try to prepare the best you can for.
How do you feel about the matchup between Wesley and Katie Humphreys? Just Big Ten quarterback, FCS quarterback both?
Yeah, I don't know. We're going to try to put Katie in the best situations, in the most successful situations. I don't know much about Lunt. I never. Y'all probably kind of get mad at me. I never have too much information on the defensive side of the ball in these Monday meetings, just because I haven't had a chance to sit down with Boone and kind of go over everything. And hey, man, who do we have to be worried about or nervous about? I do know Lunt, though. We actually tried to recruit Lunt here when he transferred to Illinois, so I do know him well. He is a very, very good player. But as far as what they do schematically, I don't. I think they've got a really good running back. From just some of my short conversations with Boone, it sounds like they've got a really, really good running back. I know they've got a wide receiver, Malik, that I've seen on one of those YouTube clips I was telling you about. They kind of did a special on him, and he's a tall, long kid that can run. So it's like any FBS opponents. They're going to have their guys. They're going to have their people that you got to watch out for. And like I said, we're going to try to be as simple as possible so that our kids can play as fast as possible and they can adjust to whatever they see come Saturday.
How much more prepared are you this year as a second-year head coach than the first year? Or is there any difference?
Well, I think the biggest thing is I think my staff is more prepared because there's things this second year that I found out my first year, and I jotted them down in that notebook from last year. So this year I said, hey, let's don't forget this meeting time needs to move, so on and so forth. And it kind of helps those guys as far as getting a plan together and knowing where they're at and scheduling their day. Because it's easy for me to schedule my day because I know what's going on, but it makes it tough for those guys when they don't know that I got to go do this at noon. So then they're walking around looking for me. And I've tried to work in a lot more time for those guys to get out of the office and exercise and do some things so that so that we can, when we hit the field with those kids, we don't have very much time with them in a week. And when we hit the field with those kids, I want everybody on that field to be as energetic as they can. I'm not a big stay up here real late at night and then wake up real early in the morning. You got to do what you got to do to win ball games, but I've seen that be very counterproductive where everybody's just kind of zombied out during the day. So that's one thing that we've tried to stay away from, especially in this second year as opposed to my first.
From an injury standpoint, are you okay heading into this week?
Yeah, with the camp that we had and trying to, because we don't get very many days. One thing about Murray State is we go back to school earlier than most everybody in our conference, so it kind of limits our camp days. I think I only had 12 days of true camp. So from that standpoint, obviously we want to try to get as much as we could in those 12 days. And we really loaded the kids up on certain days as far as how long we stayed out at practice and did some certain things. But I'm very pleased. Obviously that's probably the biggest thing that can make your season go one way or the other is how you are from an injury standpoint. And right now, knock on wood, we're about as good as we can be. There's a couple of spots that like any time we're not super deep at, but I think that those position coaches have done a good job getting those backups the amount of reps they need, so that if we get in that situation, they can at least get us out of a ball game.
How do you feel about your defense coming into week one?
I feel really well. I feel really good. They've wore my butt out for the past couple of scrimmages. I can tell you that. They're flying around. I think the one thing that I am very pleased with is that they can line up very fast. It's not a huge communication defense. There's not a lot of checks and balances based on if you line up this way and you line up that way. They don't have to make 1,000 different calls so that they can have their eyes on the football. And Boone and the defensive staff have done a tremendous job kind of taking the confusion out of the game for those guys. Again, because we knew coming into this thing we were going to have so many young players, or at least new players, that wouldn't know our terminologies and our schemes. And from that standpoint, I think we've done a tremendous job kind of limiting everything and just letting those guys go play. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen is kind of a physical nature, because those guys are flying around and moving so fast. When they get there, they tend to be very angry when they get there, and that's always a good sign.
based off of what you saw from the team in camp, what is the biggest thing you're looking forward to seeing out of your team in a game setting?
Especially this first one, just clean, clean play. If we can get out of there and be penalty free, you know what I mean. Just play a really, really clean game and execute at a high rate. That's what I'm looking for. Obviously, offensively and defensively and special teams is just execution, doing the things. What you always worry about when you have a team that you don't know is when you show up and you get in that huddle, the first play, everybody's looking back at you like this, and they've got big eyes, and they forget everything that you've done for 20 some odd practices now. And I think that's the biggest thing is, like I said earlier, is just calming those kids down and going, hey, listen, you do realize this is the same exact play that we've been running for the last 3 weeks. Nothing has changed. Don't look at them. Don't look at the stadium. Don't do any of that. Just look at me, listen to the call, and do what you're supposed to do during the call and execute at a very high level. And if we can do that, we're as good as I've been around since I've been here in 2010.